Sundays have always been sacred to me. It gives me a chance to spend time with my family, with my friends, to focus on my faith. And honestly, We Rest on Sundays is a platform that I've created to help you navigate the complexities of the world. I want to spend time having open, honest dialogue with mentors, friends and family, and individuals that I truly believe are exceptional. We're going to focus on love, career, marriage, parenting, and everything in between. And the primary goal here is for us to become the better versions of ourselves every single day. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on Sunday. Akenke, thank you for being here. I appreciate you spending the time and really just dedicating the time just to be a part of We Rest on Sundays. I'd love to just kick it off with a really, really quick letter that I wrote for you.
Okay.
And then we'll jump into some questions that I have and anything that's top of mind for you. I'd love to just hear and learn more from your perspective. But thank you for always being a guiding light and a true north for me. I sometimes question if you understand how immense my true love, admiration, and appreciation for you indeed are. I know Kia and my personalities are very similar, and I know that my style is more consistent with hers, but I pray you never doubt the true meaning and purpose you have always served in my life. I have only succeeded because of the sacrifices you and Kia have made and stepped into while quietly navigating and always protecting me. You show me how to take ownership, step into challenging situations, and navigate them without excuses. Even when you are sad or frustrated, there is never a period when I question your ability to dig deep and navigate the murky waters. I cannot imagine the struggles you persevered through, being the oldest in a poverty-stricken home with a younger brother who was 7 years younger than you. But I'm grateful for every single sacrifice that you have made. I pray that you understand my drive, my confidence, my ability to do more, my commitment to my purpose, my faith, and my commitment to my family is predicated on what I saw, experienced, and continue to experience through you and Kia. You have never let me down, and I do not doubt that you will ever do so. Thank you for always being your authentic self, for always believing in me, and for being an older sister I could never have envisioned. I pray that God continues to remind you daily just how special that you truly are. I love you. So tell me, who is Akenke?
I mean, I think honestly, to try to put me into one box will never work. I think that I'm just, I'm very grateful that I'm always growing and evolving and changing, you know, but I think to my core, I am just independent by nature and by like circumstance. But in a perfect world, I would love to be more dependent, like, you know, like not have to be as independent, as strong-willed, as forward. But I think, you know, to kind of, I guess, narrow it down, I'm a pretty headstrong, opinionated, but very loving and very loyal Black woman.
Yeah. Headstrong is a great way to describe you. But no, you know, growing up, our childhood was, I think, riddled with just challenges and complexities. And you being the oldest, you did have to navigate a lot.
Yep.
So can you just share more of like, how was that for you, right? Like, I think you being 7 years older than me, I had a front seat view, but there are also a lot of things that I'm sure that I just wasn't aware of and or didn't see because of my age and
Sure.
the age gap between us too.
Sure. I also think it's like the sexes, you know, I think being a woman, being a male also adds to that. But I also think you don't really understand the complexity of it necessarily while you're in it. Like, I definitely knew that it wasn't normal per se. I knew that it wasn't, you know, we grew up in a very white, you know, environment. So I was like, oh, I know their parents aren't this, it's not like this, you know? But I wouldn't say that I necessarily knew that it was as messed up, or I hate to say messed up, but like as disadvantaged as it was. I knew it was very chaotic, and I feel like I think that's part of what makes me very headstrong, is because I feel like I learned at a very young age, like, whoa, this is madness. And then like, let me figure out how to make it because to me, it just made me be like, you know, always like amped up, always like, what the heck is happening? And I needed to know like some kind of direction. And so I feel like it taught me very young, figure out what you can control and control that. And then that helped me keep like a little bit of sense to other things around me. Or even if I didn't understand it, it at least made it easier to kind of live in it, because I could control what I could control.
It's fascinating you say that, because I feel like that's exactly how I feel a lot, even like today, where it can be pure chaos, like happening around me, or the world can be flipping upside down, and legitimately I'm just like, I have to lock in, I have to stay disciplined, and I can calm my mind. And I think it's the beauty of a lot of our adversities growing up, and the challenge that we face is just like, we were in chaos so much that I think it taught us a level of discipline to really just lock in and stay focused. So hearing you say that is you know, there are time periods where I felt alone, but hearing you say it out loud like makes me feel better about part of the journey that I have experienced as well, and what I'm able to navigate to this day. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Oh, I just was gonna say, I think that when you learn that, you know, it helps you, it does kind of pave the way for your future, right? I think it's one of the reasons why I'm a fantastic ICU nurse, is like, it's very easy. You know, I've had patients coding and people are like, how did you stay so calm? And it's like, I was focused on saving their life. Like, all this other stuff is and that's just kind of the way, you know, life was for me consistently.
How do you feel like our adversities really just influence your decision making today?
I mean, I think that unfortunately, I take more of I think unfortunately it installed in me the part that always feels like, oh shoot, what if it doesn't work out? So I feel like with me personally, I didn't take a lot of risk in life. I was very like, I was trying to like do the right thing, stay on the right track, so I could help like you and Kia move forward. Like, I knew, for instance, in college, I was like, or like in high school going into college, I was very much like, okay, I need to get really good grades. I'm gonna go to the best pre-med, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I'm gonna go to the best pre-med school that looks out for African Americans. I gotta see what's their percentage that they accept of African Americans. Then break that down. How many are women? How many are males? You know, how much money are they gonna give me? Because school's gonna be expensive, and I got 2 siblings behind me. So I feel like I don't really take a lot of chances in life. I'm very, even now, you know, I feel like you and Kia never understand when I'm always throwing out like, maybe I should go to school for this, maybe I should look at this, and y'all are just like, you need to focus. And I'm like, no, I need to find something that is gonna like speak to what I actually love doing, which is like still being at the bedside. But obviously I know that like I'm getting older, life is progressing. I don't want to do this aspect of it forever. So I want to find something that I love, but at the same time, I want like a guarantee. I feel like you guys are a little bit more, Kia was very stern. I feel like you figured it out along the way. Like, you might have known your end game, but like, you know, going from the different organizations that you worked for, I think you kind of like figured out this will be a good next step. As we're with me and like nursing, it's kind of like, well, I love what I do, but I just know that at the end of the day, I need something better. But I don't know what that better is. I don't know how to get there, but I don't want to take a lot of risks trying to figure it out. And I don't take a lot of risk in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And I paused for a second because I just never thought about it like that. And I don't know, it's just very fascinating because and maybe it's me just being the youngest and being a boy. I think I just had to get to college. Like, get to college, because I'm like, I'm smart. I'll figure out the grades. Like, I'll figure out everything else. And I'm like, if I can finish with my degree, I'll get a job. Like, and I will be fine. And I don't think that I'm a risky person, But even the way that you just explained, like, oh, you went to this organization, that organization, I think I'm very big on getting my worth, and that's a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is like, I've worked for organizations where I'm like, time is up.
Yeah.
Like, you have this ship has went as far as it's going to go. I feel like I'm undervalued, underappreciated, and I think sometimes when we have those conversations where it's like just focus or this, that, is, I think it's me also outwardly reflecting where it's like, well, if it's not worth your time or your value, then like pivot. But again, your personality being super risk adverse, I think it's easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. But also career too, right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, nursing, although it's a fantastic career, you are in a box. Like, you know, if I don't want to go into management. So it's almost like people, they are at the bedside for a little bit, they go to MP school, right? Well, I don't want to be an MP. They go into management. I don't want to manage anybody. Like, you know, but also I don't want to just stay at the bedside. So it's not you know, and then I do pediatric intensive care. So it's like, the average city has one pediatric hospital. So it takes a lot more. If I don't like the organization, I'm actually moving cities. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even this great city of Atlanta, they only have CHOA. So even, you know, that's just the way pediatrics is.
Yeah.
So it also is a little bit more binding that way too, that a lot of people who are in that avenue can't really appreciate.
Yeah, it's good. I tell this story to myself all the time, and I don't know if it's true or not. Did you apply to Stanford?
I did.
And you got into Stanford?
I did.
And that's what I thought. And was it on the whim of like high school kids telling you that you wouldn't get into any school that you applied to?
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Can you tell that story?
I mean, long story short, it's, you know, we grew up I'm very grateful to have grown up in Wauwatosa because it was always safe. I didn't, you know, and I feel like being the eldest, being a girl, and being a lot of times we were latchkey kids, it was nice to know we were safe, right? Like if I had to go to work right after school and you and Kia were doing whatever, it was still nice to know that, like, who cares? Nobody's like coming into the house and kicking the door. Like, to me, I very much appreciate Wauwatosa for that. But I think what comes with that for sure is that there's always like a have and have not feeling. There's always and then it's like some of the kids that have, who probably really don't have it, but whether it's race or like their stature in the community, they feel like they have it, so then they almost have this like little arrogance. And so basically, long story short, I will never forget it, I was in AP physics. I hate physics. To this day, I hate physics. But I was like, this will look really good on my college application.
Did Mr. Van teach that? No?
I did not have Mr. Van. I had Mr. Oh my gosh.
I can see him.
I love him.
Yeah,
though. But he was so nice, and he's I wanted to drop it, and I was like, Miss Gabrielson, like, get me out of this class. I hate physics. I don't even know why I did this. There's this little pipsqueak in class, and you know, he was just kind of like even his voice just grinds my gears. And you know, he always had something to say. He of course was getting an A in the class, but he also wanted to be pre-med. And he was we were all talking about all these schools we were going to apply to, and I had like St. Louis and like all these other things and whatever, and he mentioned that he was applying to Stanford, and he just was like a shoo-in to get in, and how like nobody else in our graduating class was applying to Stanford because they couldn't do it. And in my head I was like, oh, okay. And we had already taken ACTs. I knew I did great on my ACTs.
Yeah.
I knew I did better than him because he talked all the time. And I was like, okay. And then I went to Miss Gabrielson. I was like, I think I'm going to apply to Stanford. And she's like, listen, you told me that you only had enough money to apply to 5 schools. And I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And I applied and got my letters of recommendation from different people. And yeah, the rest was history. I applied, I got in, and initially I didn't say anything, and then one day in class, the teacher announced it, and then I was like, and then the teacher's like, she got into every school that she applied to, and he's just like, what? Because he was waitlisted. And so then of course I got the whole comment that I got in because of affirmative action, you know, all that, and I was like, I mean, at the end of the day, I got in. Like, At the end of the day, I did better on my ACT. Like, you're doing better than me on one class.
Right.
One class.
But your ACT was higher. You had a really high GPA. You had everything.
Like, whatever. And I have no clue what he did after high school because I was never that invested in him.
Yeah.
I just wanted to shut him up.
Yeah. It's. I think that's an excellent story because if I always am like, I get stuck in my head sometimes where I'm just like, this is going to sound so bad and probably toxic, but I have a lot of people in my, not a lot, but a handful of people in my life that I have those similar experiences with, and I add them to a list in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I add them to a list, and anytime, like, if there's any self-doubt that creeps in, I think about that person. I'm like, okay, I'm about to outwork. I'm about to outwork you. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to do, like, legitimately, you know? So that's a story that I always tell. But on the back end of that story, I have always felt, and I don't think I've ever said this to you, some sense of like of sadness, because I'm like, she got into this amazing school, but also knew that like I couldn't really be by myself in this apartment because our mom was gone. Do you have any regrets of our childhood? And two, do you feel like there's any part of like my journey that held you up from like really pursuing your personal goals and purpose?
I mean, I try very hard not to live life with any regrets. I think that, you know, with the help of therapy, I definitely think that like at the end of the day, like mama did the best she could. I'm 100% wholeheartedly think that. And I just think that like she did the best she could with what she had, with where she was. I always say like, I'll tell people all the time, like, you know how they say it takes a village? I'm like, that was literally me and my siblings. Like, I feel like it did take a village to raise us, you know, like her side of the family stepped in when they could or whatever. And so I don't have any regrets in that aspect. But I also don't feel like I made a lot of choices to look out for you and Kia, but I don't regret that. And I don't feel like it held me up. I just feel like at the end of the day, I did what I thought was right. I mean, the hard thing about it is that I'm the eldest, right? The eldest girl. And it wasn't even only the requirements, I guess, of our immediate family, but it was also with grandma and papa. I mean, they called me for a lot of things. A lot of times I mean, you know, a lot of things. And I had to be like, whoa, we got other girl cousins way older than me. But that's the thing, is like, who was my role model, right? Like, I had nobody in the family to show me how to be an older sister, I just kind of like figured it out along the way. And so like, even with grandma and papa, like when they called me, it was always like, you know, there are times I was tired, there are times I might've had an attitude, but like I showed up. And then I'd just be like, God, y'all, you know, y'all have kids here, y'all have other like cousins, but I guess they went to the responsible one. I don't know, you know, but I don't have any regrets. I think that I just did the right thing to get what was done. I knew that like the minute I decided I was not going to be going the medical school route, I was like, I got to figure this out. Like I got to get a degree and get out of college. And I think I knew I loved medicine. I 100% did. But then also the argumentative side of me was like, maybe I could be a lawyer. But in college, and in high school, we had to take speech, and the lack of the nerves I had and how I just couldn't, I was like, oh, I can't be a lawyer. I can't even like, I sound like I'm gonna cry. Like, I just knew that was not the route. And I was like, okay, I love medicine. I love the human body. Okay, nursing it is. And I just did that because I was like, I gotta hurry up. Like, Kia was in college, you know, and it was like not a question for you not to go to college. I was like, and not to get out of Wisconsin. Like, I was like, you need to, like, no, we got to get this together. And then I just, you know, moved that way. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear, because Kia said something very similar where she was just like, you know, I think Ma did like her best, you know, like the best that she could do. But being fully transparent with you, not always, but like from time to time, it feels like there's this level of like tension, sometimes healthy tension, sometimes just like I don't know if it's like history tension between like you and her. Like, is that something, and or like what makes you, and or like, am I just reading into it too much, right? Like, and I'll speak a little bit more for myself, is I love Ma to death, and I'm gonna always support her and help her navigate. But sometimes, for me, there is a little bit of walking on eggshells, because I'm like, I know that she's very opinionated, but I also, as am I. And if I share feedback on something, right, like I'm very particular about how I raise these kids, as y'all know and y'all experience, right? But I think you and Kia can take feedback at times, and sometimes I'll tell Mom, I'm like, she's triggered by that. She's triggered by my feedback. She's triggered by me like trying to lead and do things like my way versus like her way. And I'm like, it's not that your way didn't work, but it's like, I don't want my kids to experience that way. I want them to experience this way. So long story short, my question is like, where is your relationship? And like, is there, you know, is there a tension, or are you like, hey, like, no, I'm past the history part of everything that we dealt with and what I had to navigate and helping to like look out for you and Kia?
I don't know if I would say tension. I just think that there will always be something there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily, you know, you and Kia talk to both of our parents fairly often. I probably talk to them on holidays. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I always think about this when I think about my relationship with them. And, you know, in therapy, they always teach you like, oh, learn to accept the apology you're never going to get. And I feel like I can do that with a lot of people, but I cannot do that with my parents. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I say all the time, oh, you know, I'll spend enough money in therapy, I could have owned a Porsche by now, you know? But at the end of the day, unfortunately, that's still like my Achilles heel. It's like, I just cannot. And I mean, it's not even that, it's weird. I don't need an apology from either of them. But I think that there are a lot of things that I missed out on personally, and I think it was because I was the eldest daughter. And I think that with that, there's always going to be like that little bit of like bitterness, even though it doesn't. And I think the way that presents then is that like our relationship is just forever strained. And it just sucks. I mean, it's stuff that you can't get back. I can't get it back.
Yeah.
You know, they'll never understand. And so I just think it's going to always be that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally understand the way that you explained it is helpful for me, I think. And not even that's not something that I'm trying to solve, if I'm being totally honest with you. Like, it's not, I think, you know, because again, like even with me, there is tension, right? Like, and for different reasons, and it's not necessarily like, it's really more so like with Dad, if I'm being fully transparent with you, I don't talk to him often. I think Kia talks to him the most, for sure. And even part of me is just like, why does she talk to this man this much? And again, like those are things that I'm trying to work out internally as well, because that's not my place, one, and two, my place is like also trying to figure out, because I would love to solve that tension between he and I, especially before he passes or before I pass as well. So I think that's the selfish part of me asking you that question, is because I'm also trying to navigate my own internal battles, you know, with that topic. But what advice would you give to, you know, a younger person facing similar choice between family responsibilities and really just navigating their own personal dreams?
I don't know, because, you know, I don't think that necessarily the way I did it was the right way. But
what makes you say that though?
Because I am very self-sacrificing with you guys. I mean, I'm ridiculously self-sacrificing. You can, you know, I'll go back home. You can call me tomorrow and be like, I need you back in Atlanta, and I'm gonna figure out how to get back to Atlanta. And like, and I don't regret that. I'm not saying it as if, but I just think that, you know, as I've gotten older and made like friends, and like none of my friends are the eldest sibling. None of my friends are the eldest sibling, but I will see their older siblings, or I'll watch their older siblings, or I'll hear stories. And it's like, I'll catch myself being judgmental, like, oh my God, I would never do that. But it's like, that doesn't mean I'm doing it the right way. I mean, but sometimes I do wish I were a little bit more selfish. I wish that I were a little bit more, because the hard thing is that being the eldest, and then being the eldest from parents who also, like, you're not emotionally attached to, I feel very forgotten a lot of times, or like not considered a lot of times, you know? And I think that that's why maybe sometimes some of these other older sisters that I have met or watched, I think that is why they're a little bit selfish, because I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute, that does make a little sense, but I can never do it. And I just feel like that unfortunately puts me at a position where I cannot give advice, because in a perfect world, I would be like, yes, sacrifice anything for your siblings. My friend, like 2 years ago, my friend sent me this thing on Instagram, and it said something like, it said something like, do you wish that you were never an elder sibling, or a sister, it said, or do you like root for your younger siblings? And the girl responded, and she was like, I'm totally paraphrasing, but she was just like, my younger siblings are my everything. Like if they were not successful, I would feel like a failure. And I feel like that is 100% me. So I know that in my being and who I am, the way I did it was how I was meant to do it. But I also feel like I was probably a little bit too invested in y'all's lives, a little bit too like self-sacrificing, a little bit too, you know, and then now I can't turn it off either.
Yeah, it's one that doesn't catch me by surprise. I think for me that makes a lot of sense, and I can only speak for my journey. So, but 2 points is like, I hope that you know and you feel that you can say no to me if and when I ask you for things. If it's putting you in a bind from a time commitment or work commitment, like, please tell me no. I feel like I'm a man that can figure out and navigate things, but I also know that you're a person that, even with me saying that, still is not going to say no and still going to try to figure it out.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily put me in a bind, right? It doesn't necessarily put me in a bind. I've never been in a position where I felt like I was in a bind, but it just is one of those things where it's like, where I feel like, I don't know, I remember like a couple years ago, I said to you and Kia, dang, y'all never call and check on me. Y'all never just like call me and see, and then y'all are like, what are you talking about? Like, and I'm just like, I feel like it's like that, where it's like, even with you, like we say all the time we're gonna get better at it, and we don't, right? But it's not because there's like any love lost there or anything. It's like because I'm just kind of like, I feel like with you and Kia, y'all talk every day, y'all are like this, and then I feel like I'm like over here. I always think of this picture, there's this picture of us that I have, and it's like you and Kia, her arm is like around you and whatever, and I'm just kind of like off like watching y'all. And I feel like that's how it always is.
So I don't want you to feel any type of way about that. I think for me, the gap there and you have always felt like a parent to me. Yeah. And she has honestly never felt like a parent to me. You know what I'm saying? So like you spent a lot of time today speaking about being the oldest, being the oldest, right? Like, and that did for me put you in a box of being a parent. And Dad was in prison for 15 and a half years of my life. So legitimately, basically all of it. Mama, during my foundational years, she was gone. Like those are in my humble opinion, like the deep end for her. She was really, really gone. So the person that I had to listen to at all times was you coming in as a parent and Kia coming in as a friend. You know what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm saying. When I say so when I spoke earlier about things in my childhood that I'll never get back, that's what I mean. So I was put, as the elder sister, I was put into a parental role. And obviously I was meant to be there, I handled it, I did whatever, but it then altered that relationship between us, right? Because even with Kia, there are certain things, I remember one time, maybe like a year ago, something happened and I was like venting to Franny about it, and I was like, oh yeah, and I was like, she's like, well, did you say? I'm like, yeah, I asked her about it, and she said this, and I was like, but I know she's lying, and she's like, wait, what? And I was like, oh, I'm like the mom, like, she's gonna, like, there are just certain things that y'all are not gonna share with me, right? There are certain things, and whether it's like, you don't wanna disappoint me, or you don't wanna hear my opinion, or whatever, but they're just, that is what I mean when I say like things were taken away from me in my childhood. That where like that connection is missed. So like even you guys, it's, to me, it's like very, like other people will watch us and they're like, oh my God, you guys are so close. And I'm like, yeah, but like in my head, I'm like, no, Kia and Ben are really close.
Yeah.
And then, yes, y'all are close to me, but it's almost like by default.
Yeah, I don't feel like that though, Akenke, and
No, and that's good, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, and I think that that's where my tension with mama and dad come
Yeah.
in, because that is something that they can never give back to me.
Yeah, and I understand, and like, and I feel bad that you feel that way, and that's never my intention. I don't want you to
Yeah.
feel like that, because I think that there is so much beauty in how I was raised, and in having that relationship, I think I really needed it in
Yeah.
order to be able to elevate, one, like my career, to understand relationships, to understand like how to be a husband, like all of
Yeah.
these things that I learned, where if you didn't serve in that role, I don't know the man that I would be today, right? And like,
Yeah.
and I do not like talking on the phone, period. It's
Yeah.
just not what I like to do at all. Even when Kia calls or whatever,
Yeah.
like we'll check it, talk, and it's like,
Yeah.
I got to keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not that but like, it's just not my thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, in person, this, that, and the other. She lives here, right? So,
Yeah.
so with that being said, like I totally empathize, and I hear where you're coming from. And again, like I'm gonna say this for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Like you have my word. I'm gonna work at doing a better job at that. Please hear me. And I don't want to make an excuse because I'm a man, and but like there are a lot of things that I am navigating, and I like the role that you have served. I
Yeah.
appreciate the role that you have served, and I'm grateful for the role that you have served. And Kia has also served as a parental role for me.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
So I don't want you to feel like, oh, there are all these things you tell her. It's like, no, there are a lot of things I do not tell Kia, right? There are a lot of things
Yeah.
that I don't, because I'm like, I'm a man now. Like it's different when I was a boy, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure, but it's like, I got to figure this out for me. Like
Yeah.
I need to figure this out for my family. I need to, and I don't want opinions
Yeah.
about this, or I don't,
Yeah.
and I need to bump my head, and I need to miss,
Yeah.
or I need to, so it's like, again, like I think that sometimes, Kia can talk to a wall. I can't too.
You can too, yeah.
but that's the synergy there, and it's like, but I also can sit in a room with you and not talk for hours and feel super comfortable,
Yeah.
super at home, super happy, like
Yeah.
super warm and love. So
Yeah.
it's like, I hate that you feel where it's like, oh, there's this picture and it's like, I'm on the outside. It's like, I don't ever feel like you're on the outside.
Not in a bad way. More like I'm just like the overprotective like watcher. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like y'all are like kind
Yeah.
of like connected at the hip, and then I'm just kind of like just watching y'all like a proud mom.
Yeah.
But
And-
it's like, yeah, but in all honesty, like then I miss that sister link is I guess
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, yes, y'all acknowledge me as y'all sister. And I don't even say that to be, because I feel like somebody might hear that and think like, whoa, that's like real rude to her parents and to your mom. And it's like, I'm not even saying that in a disrespectful way to mama. Like, mama was present, you know what I mean? And she was functional and things like that. It's not in a disrespectful way to her, but it is in a different realm when it is the sibling having to step up to the plate and
Yeah.
do whatever.
Yep. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. Like, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. Like, and it's a space that that I don't fully know how to navigate,
Yeah.
from time to time. So like,
Neither one of y'all, because even if I bring it up to Kia, it's like, oh my gosh, you're being so sensitive. And I'm like, y'all will never understand it. And I'm not knocking y'all for not understanding it, but I also have to like express my feelings on
Yeah.
it, because if I don't, then I'll hold it in. Then all of a sudden, at Christmas I'm blowing up because, y'all got me a gift card to this place and I wanted a gift card here.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what the heck?
yeah, yes. Yeah, and for me, I'm like, I'll probably look at that like, what the heck? Because I'm like, I don't care what you get me. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like, it's just.
But then it's not even about the gift card.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like literally about because y'all left me out of this event or whatever.
Bingo, right? So
Yeah.
versus like just addressing like what it really is.
Yeah.
It's really not about the gift card. It's about like, oh, I felt left
Yeah.
out about X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, tell me what it is. Tell
Yeah.
me what the thing is. I can't make anything better until it's addressed head
Yeah.
on. And I believe that I'm a person that tries to be super direct about whatever it is that may be bothering me. I don't like to, even in my, in my marriage where it's like, if India is upset about something, like I'm not trying to go to bed angry. Like I may not wake up, you may not wake
Yeah.
up. So for me, it's like, don't sit on things with me. Like, tell me what it is, no matter how
Yeah.
big or small. And if I dismiss it or I make it small, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's not my intention, but give me the space
Yeah.
and the grace to like, to try to make it right on the
Yeah.
back end. Because I know 9 times out of 10, it's not about the gift card.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you sharing that. And sorry, this turned into a therapy session between the both of us, but I do appreciate you sharing your, you know, your truth. And I hope that you know that like there are no blind spots for me that I feel about that topic. And I will try really hard to like navigate that a little bit more and better, right? I just think that, you know, you being the oldest for me specifically, you still can feel like that parent. So it's like you do want to make sure that like you're on your P's and your Q's
Yeah.
and that you're, you know, like
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you're proud of me and like
Yeah.
what I'm doing and how
Yeah.
I'm navigating, you know, being a man and leading my family. Like that's
Yeah.
that's very important to me. So
Sure.
for me, it's like, and I know I don't always have to, but it's like I'm striving to make sure that I put my best foot forward
Yeah.
when I'm in your presence, right?
Yeah.
And you know, again, I think a lot comes with that, you know, versus like, and again, you and Kia are more like peers than you are, you know, because you're so close in age. But for me, I've always been the youngest.
Yeah.
And Kia has done I feel like she has just served in the space of like, you know, in childhood, if my grades are bad and mom was gone, you would have to say thoughts or like,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then Kia would come and be like,
Yeah.
it's not that bad,
Yeah.
man, you'll be okay. You know, like,
Yeah.
and like, so again,
Yeah.
like she was always serving in
Yeah.
that space and you
The
were always
sibling,
saying,
yeah.
yes. So, but I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Like I respect that relationship and I think
Yeah.
it probably gave me the space and made me feel whole.
Yeah.
But I also can understand where it didn't always serve you and it doesn't make
Yeah.
you feel whole now, me being, you know, in my mid 30s and you being 40. So like, again, I hear you and I'm going to try to work
Yeah.
at that because I think a lot of times it can be self-serving for me where I'm like, oh, this is our relationship and it works really well for me.
Yeah.
It feels good. Like, and I know
Yeah.
that like,
Yeah.
I need to continue to strive and be doing
Yeah.
really good here. And
Yeah.
here I can be super loose and,
Yeah.
and whatever,
Yeah.
you know? So again, that's me just trying to share my side of that
Sure.
coin. But again, thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you wish other people understood about your journey that isn't always apparent?
I mean, I feel like people always just see me, especially like when they see the three of us, they're always like, oh man, Kinky's the mean one. Like, oh man, look at her. She don't even talk. And it's like, I'm a very introverted person. And then when both your siblings are very extroverted and like
Yeah.
social butterflies, it is kind of hard to, and I think also because y'all are younger than me, I think people are going to naturally think that they're going to meet me and I'm going to be like y'all because
Yeah.
you had this great social example and it's like, no, I'm just here.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, I'm enjoying myself. And I think that that's the thing is like, even when you said earlier, like, oh yeah, I can sit there and be quiet for hours. And it's like, that's what I need in life. Because people like think, oh, when I come visit, they have to entertain me.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, I live alone. I hang out with me and my friends hang out, but they work too, right? Like they work, I work. I'm on night shift. Out of all my friends, I'm the only person still on night shift. You know, so it's like some of them have children. So we're all trying to like navigate life. So then when I come to visit family, like I always tell people when I come to Atlanta, like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going home. When I go to Wisconsin, I'm always like, oh, I'm going home, you know?
Yeah.
And so whenever I come like home to Atlanta, I'm like, I'm okay if y'all leave me at the house alone.
Yeah.
I'm okay if like, you don't have to find something for me to do all the time, but I think a lot of times people think, oh, because, you know, I don't talk as much or I don't do whatever, or they might have heard that I was like stern or mean, like the kids will be like, you're mean. And I'm like, what? But I think like, cause they heard that, they just naturally think, oh, if she doesn't talk, then like, yeah, she's mean. She's like, whatever. She doesn't like it here. And it's like, I'm probably A-okay. And actually, if I don't like it, I'll have no problem speaking up and being
Yeah.
like, oh, hold up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. But I think that people just misread that a lot. And I think that they just misread that, like, you know, you make it to 40 and you're single and you don't have kids and people are naturally like, what's wrong with her? Like, what the heck, right? But if a guy, especially a black man, made it to 40 and no kids, no divorce, he's like an Adonis. Like, oh my gosh. And then, but like with the women, it's like whatever. So I think that there's like just like there are a lot of layers of like misunderstanding. I think that come with being in your early 40s, being single, never having children. Then on top of it, you're introverted. You know, I work night shift. I work in pediatrics. I work in intensive care. All these things that kind of shut you out from a lot of things. You know, so I think it just leaves a lot of room for people to like misread and judge you.
Yeah. Yes. And it's funny because it's like I feel like I know you very well, and I think that you know me very well. I think we know each other. Like I think that's the beauty in our relationships. Even with you just unpacking that, it's like there's nothing that you said to me that was a surprise to me or a shock. You know.
Right.
But I think it's so interesting to me because it's like people. I don't know the story, like the concept that people say where it's like. Boys and I believe this, boys typically marry like the best examples of like parenting or role models that they had, right? And I look at India, and India is legitimately like a balance of both you and Kia. Like I see that to my core. Because India is super introverted, you know, like she can be at the house, she prefers to be at the house. And versus like me, if I'm in the house all week, I'm like, I have to be outside on the weekend, and I need the more people, the better. I'm the person texting people, hey, we're gonna meet here on Saturday, or you know, this Saturday, the other, and I come alive. I feel really good, you know. But what I know about you also is like I know that like you're very cozy and comfortable. If it's like the environment is clean, my people are here, like I'm good, you know. But I do worry. From time to time where I'm like, I wonder if she feels misunderstood, not by us, by like society. You know?
For sure.
And that's why I asked that question, because I think extroverts are, like, I don't think that we care about being misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that doesn't mean, like, I work really hard to read the room. But if I'm not this person's vibe over there, all good. It's 15 other people over here whose vibe I am, you know? And I'm okay with that, you know? So I appreciate you answering that question honestly, because I've thought about that from time to time for you specifically. What do you think is your most proud accomplishment?
I mean, I honestly think you and Kia being as successful as y'all are is my biggest accomplishment. And I know that sounds so selfish because, like, I always tell people, like, I feel like I had my brother. I got him through high school. I knew I needed to get him to college away from Wisconsin. I didn't care where you went. I just was like, this boy needs to go to college. He needs to, like, we're going to get him through college, and then, like, but he needs to get out of this state. Like, I was just like, he needs to get out of Wisconsin. And it's not even like to knock Wisconsin, because people are like, whoa. And I'm like, it's not to knock Wisconsin. It's just that I feel like, I say this all the time, like, I feel like people need to live in at least 2 different cities in their life. I think that nurses need to work at least 2 different hospitals in their life. I just think that you need to venture out. And I think that there's something said about people who like just stay in the same city. Even like Atlanta. I know Atlanta is a fantastic city, but it's like you're born and raised here, and you went to school here, and you did this, and you like venture out just even for a year. But I think that my biggest success are you guys, and I only say that because I think that it proves to me that I stayed on the right track for a reason. Because I truly believe in my core, had I slummed off in life, had I not finished school, even though Kia graduated undergrad before me, but had I not completed it, like let's just say I kept working, just did whatever, I just don't think that you, and this might sound really cocky, I just don't think that y'all would have pushed to so many new levels that y'all do. I'm not like a, you know, some people, it's like every time you turn around, they're like in school for a whole new degree, and you're like, gosh, you're like a professional student. And like, I don't knock people like that. I'm not that person, clearly. But I think that if I would have kind of plateaued and stayed where I was, especially early in life when y'all were still navigating it, I think that I know that you would have had Kia because she knew she was going to be a practitioner and all whatever else, but I think it still would have been different because I didn't succeed. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. You know, again, and I can only speak for myself because that's the journey that I know the best. But even today now, like people are like, well, you make this amount of money, your career is doing this. Like, why do you feel like you need? And it's like I really feel like I'm at like 5% of what I'm really capable of. Like I truly feel that to my core, and I'm like I haven't helped enough. I haven't served enough. I haven't like mama still has to work part-time to pay her rent. You know, like it's not like we can travel and I'm getting a house internationally. I'm like, yeah, come on. You know, like we're going to go here, you know, this quarter or here, that quarter. And it's not all about financial, you know, like opportunities for me. But again, I think that like there are a lot of like I look at the journey where it's like the first portion of my life was, you know, you leaned in a lot, transitioned to college, Kia leaned in a lot and had to step in, like bring me groceries every single week. And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, she didn't have any money to be bringing me groceries, me and my friends. Like, especially when I stayed in that fraternity house sophomore year, I'm like, I used to get so frustrated because my line brothers would eat a lot of the groceries. I'm like, y'all don't understand how hard this girl is working to provide groceries for me. But that taught me a lot about, you know, myself and my journey as well. But so I understand you saying that, you know, for sure. That brings us to like my next question. I don't want this to sound like weird or, you know, arrogant or anything like that, but did you see where I'm currently at within my career, you know, when we were growing up? And I asked that question because in high school, like elementary, middle, high school, I was a C student and had a tutor and all of the things. I know what that was. It was never the fact that I was dumb. It was the fact that like life was so chaotic and it was so madness for me, and I was just internalizing it and kind of just in it where I'm like, what is this about? To where I knew I was like, I just got to get to college. Like if I get to college and I'm like out of this, I will not drop the ball, you know? And I did that, right? Like, and some, but did you see that or did you not? Were you just like, I'm just gonna keep praying for Ben and seeing?
No, I knew 100%, like, just get you to college and you'll be fine. Not, you know, I was nervous about you being a C student in high school because I wanted you to, I had already been there where like, I saw how much money you could get from having good grades. And I was like, okay, you're paying for this, you need to get some money. So I felt like I was like more on your back in that realm because I had already been through it. And so I think I always knew, I never one time doubted that you would be successful, and successful is such a broad,
yeah, for sure,
subjective, you know, word. But I always knew that. Did I necessarily see you working in the company that you're with now? No. Did I see you doing this? No. But not because it's like I'm very good at not trying to put people in a box. I try very hard not to put people in a box because I feel like I always meet people that want to put me in a box.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's this thing, and my friend Karen sent it to me on Instagram, and it was like this girl's like thing, and she was like, stop trying to pour me into a mold. I don't fit into shit. And I was like, that is me. And she sent it to me like, this is you. And I was like, yes, that is me. And so then I work really hard not to put other people into a box because I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of times we do get put into these boxes, right? And then you stay, it can limit somebody. And I never want somebody to be like, oh shoot, well I didn't, especially like you or Key, I never would want y'all to be like, well I was gonna do this and then I didn't because Kinky told me it wasn't safe. Because that's how I move in my life, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not doing that because I gotta pay for this out of pocket, do all this, and then what if I hate it? But I never wanted to put that on y'all. I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I remember Kia, even like in this like career path that she's in now, I was like, wait, so what are you gonna do? So okay, so are you using your nurse practitioner license? And she's like, no, I don't need it because of this. And I just was like, oh, okay. But then now she's in it and then she tells me about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful, you know? And now she's trying to go for it. And I'm like, yes, that's fantastic. And I feel like that with you, where you're like, I remember you were first going to grad school and I was like, wait, what's the degree? And you were like explaining it and I'm like, well, what are you gonna do about it with it or whatever? And then you're like, well, I'm at SunTrust. And I'm like, okay. Like I had I was like, I don't even see how this fits together, but I'm going with you. And so I knew it was never a question of success. But did I see these steps? No. But did I try to? No.
Yeah.
I was just very open.
Yeah. Yep. Got it. It's funny you say that because it's like I've always seen it. Like even now with what I'm trying to do here and like Bill, we rest on Sundays. Like I can see it. I can see it. I can feel it. I was losing sleep over it, and it's like that with like my career as well. I think it's like that with you know, like a lot of things. Even like mama getting clean and going through that journey where it's like I'm like if she can live and like not until like this and relocate down here, like we can help her with the rest. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that because I've always wondered where I'm like, I wonder if she being you, like any of this. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm the most successful person in the world by any means, but I think the odds of the three of us being where we are today has to be less than 1%. Like I just.
It is. And I always knew we would beat the odds. That was never, I never even thought twice about it. I was just kind of like, whoa, like, no, this is not for me. And I knew like and there's just certain things like, you know, even now I'll meet guys and they're like, why don't you have any kids? And I'm like, I never wanted to be a baby's mom. I knew I was never going to be a baby mama. But on top of that, I was like, I never dated a guy that I wanted to do the work with. Yeah. When I dated men, especially like in my 30s, I remember I would always think to myself, do I want to raise a child with him? Yeah. That's how I knew we had staying power. Could I see myself, will we agree on religion? Will we agree on money? Will we agree on, you know, I fly to Atlanta, all birthday parties, holidays, you coming with me or you gonna be pitching a fit and we gotta go with your family? Yeah. Like I thought about that. And to me, that always was like a deciding factor of seeing like where life goes. Cause my thing is like, I never doubted that we were going to be where no one predicted. And I don't mean anyone like in the family. I mean, when you look at statistics, we should not be like, we shouldn't have graduated college. Probably shouldn't have graduated high school, to be honest. And like, to me, that was never even a thought in my mind. So I just feel like life made me a very type A person. Yeah. And so, but it goes back to what I could control, right? And so that was my thing, was like, well, if I can like keep my head on straight, if I can keep this, if I can stay out of this kind of trouble, if I can, you know, being a single parent is hard. We were products of it. And so I saw that. My best friend was a single parent, you know, I saw that. So it was very clear to me, like, that's gonna stop me from beating the odds. I'm all about beating the odds. And I've always marched to the beat of my own drum. And I just remember like when India was first pregnant, you're like, I hope it's a girl. And I'd just be like, God, this boy is just so crazy. Like he just wants to put this on the older daughter. It is not like being the older sister is not all that it's cracked up to be.
You saw it from your perspective.
From my perspective. But then I met this little girl and now I see her personality and I see how strong and I'm like, she was meant to be an older sister.
Did God deliver?
And it's a totally different responsibility, right? Like she's not gonna have to step in how I had to step in, yet you see glimpses of her and you're like, oh, she's a natural born leader. And that is, and I feel like once I saw her and her personality, I was like, this is what he wanted. And then I could see it more. But when you would always say it before, I'd be like, Lord, just make the baby healthy, but I just don't know about this being a girl.
Yeah, it's so crazy that you say that, because it's like, again, when I say like, oh, I've seen it, I prayed for that. Like I prayed for it. And again, it's majority of that is because of our relationship, where I'm like, the value that an older sister can have on a boy's development, on his thought process, on him becoming a leader, on him understanding like women, right? Like just women, period. It's, and I have older male cousins, like they're great, I love them to death, but like they haven't helped me navigate like emotions and women and even my own emotions as well. I'm a highly emotional man. It doesn't make me soft. It doesn't make me, like soft is really the only word that you typically hear, growing up in the Black community. And I'm like, no, like, I'm gonna put my back against the wall. That's when I perform the best. I'll work you. I am super competitive. My drive is crazy. But I'm an empath, and I'm a feeler, and I like all of the things. And it's because like I saw you and Kia, and y'all navigate these situations, and y'all were always showing your emotions and sharing your emotions and giving me space to share mine as well. And I think that's what I wanted in having kids and starting my family, where I'm like, and Tatum is all of that and some, and she is doing an amazing job and being the older daughter. Older sibling that I expected her to be, and some, and I can see Benjamin gravitating towards her now and loving her, and I'm like, they don't know what they have at this moment, and they won't fully grasp it or understand it until they're in their 30s, in the later phases of their lives, right? Because like, again, we say it like it may be different, but it's like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know how long Indy's going to be here, like. But the however is that they have that foundation of like truly being a unit and moving together and being one, and that's what we have as well. My final question for you, if you could speak to your younger self, the one dealing with a difficult home life and uncertainty, what advice would you give her?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I really don't know. And I don't know if I don't know because I think when you invest a lot in yourself and you do a lot of like the hard work, right? And you have to hold the mirror up to you, because I think that that's the thing. I think people see me a lot now and they always think about the old me, right? The hothead, the like always sharing my opinion out loud. And I think that they can't really give me the grace to think that I have evolved, right? But then I think all those years and all the therapy that I went through and all the other things that I went through and to evolve, it's hard to think back to what I would tell my old self, only because my old self went through everything and needed to go through those things to know that like a change was needed. And the thing is that there are a lot of things that I told my old self that helped me to be successful. I used to tell myself like, oh, life's not gonna always be like this. Like, oh, no, whatever. I envision myself like in a house. I envision myself. I remember, I tell people all the time, the car I drive now to this day, I vividly remember I was on a travel assignment in California. I can see it. I was driving through the Anaheim Hills. I had a Pontiac Grand Prix, hated it. And I was at a red light and this car pulls up to me, it was black. And I was like, what is this? I mean, it stopped me. The light turned green, the man pulled off, and I just was like, oh. I Googled it, and I was like, whoa, I fell in love with this car. And I was like, I'm gonna drive that car one day. I'm gonna drive that car one day. I could see myself, I envisioned it, I got the car. And that has always been like in life, you know what I mean? Now, I don't always get everything. You know, people will be like, oh, manifest, okay. Sometimes it don't work out. And like, you know, I didn't get everything. I thought I was gonna be a mom. That didn't happen. But it's like, life, you know, I say that to say, there are things that my younger self saw and they came to fruition. I remember in high school telling Kia, like, who cares about that? Or middle school and being like, who cares? You can have anything that these people got. So it's like, I feel like I knew it, and I set myself up like that. And I tried to like invest that in y'all. And so I don't know what I would tell my younger self. But I think that also, I think that really the better thing is, I think that I would say stuff to my future self. Like, I try to think about my future self like, girl, speak up more. Like, you have so much to offer. You have, even though if I don't want to, you know, or I think a lot of people think about, there are a lot of things that like people don't necessarily know about me or don't understand about me. Like how they'll be like, oh, it's so easy for you to just like cut people off and walk away. But I'm like, I mean, my best friend died when I was 19 and my life halted for years. And so it is easy to be like, I'll let you into my circle. And my circle is very tight and very small because just say what's on my mind. Whether it's politically correct or not, because it's a safe space. And if you ruin that trust, it's easy for me to walk away. But then I feel like over the years, like hearing people be like, oh gosh, like you're just so cutthroat, you just cut people. Then I think you let it kind of get into and then you kind of like, oh, I should change. I should do this. I should do that. Like you almost, and it's like, I would, if anything, speak to my future self and just be like, you're doing it right. Like people, whatever is meant for you is not going to pass you by. Whatever is meant for you, like you are doing it right. Like just stick to what's true for you and what works for you, because you better be sure everybody else doing that. For themselves.
You got it. And if it's anything I can encourage you on is like to do exactly that. Because I think that one, it's gotten you to where you are. It's also helped me navigate my life to get me to where I am. And honestly, a lot of my confidence and like my discipline, my grit, my determination of like locking into the thing is like I've stolen from you what I've been able to see. So even if it is a situation where you're like, I'll just fake it until I make it. It's like, well, then continue to do that, because I feel like that's what we're all doing, you know, at the end of the day. And
to some degree.
You know, to some degree. And you know, continue to be your authentic self. Like even when you're frustrated or you're like, the moment that you're feeling like, oh, I'm over here, I was like, tell me that. Like, give me the space to like hear that and to be uncomfortable in that. Because it doesn't feel great to hear that. Because it's like, dang, I don't want her to feel like that. I don't want to hurt her feelings or feel like, or feel any type of way. Because you know, like, I'm sure India probably can feel like that sometimes. We're like, dang, you just said that Kia's your best friend and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's just different versus like, there is no her and no, you know, like it's different. But it's like, I need to continue to hear that. Because I'm a man that cares about getting better and making sure that our relationship is as strong as it possibly can. Because if something happens, I know Kia said during her time, she said, and I was like, I've never heard her vocalize that out loud. But I'm like, and I've never vocalized it out loud, but I'm like, boy, do I feel that to my core? She was like, I knew when I was going through my divorce that you and Akenke were my only true constant. And I was like, God, I felt like that my entire life. You know, so like, again, I'm not going to always get it right. I'm not going to always be the person calling you every single week or every single day or whatever. But I am going to try to move that needle and to get better at that, because I know that that's what you want. But you know, again, I'm appreciative of the role that you have served and will continue to serve in my life. I'm grateful for you to always be your authentic self. I'm grateful for all the sacrifices that you have made to ensure that, you know, I make it, and you leaning into, you know, your relationship with my wife, a relationship with my kids, like sharing your opinion, right? Don't ever worry about being too opinionated. If you're like, Ben, I wouldn't do that, like, I'll hear you out and be like, okay, well, I'll make the decision. I'm still gonna do it. But, you know, it is what it is. But I love you dearly. And if you need anything, I pray that you know that, like, I'm always gonna be there to support you and to help you navigate and to solve any challenges or complexities that you're going to. So thanks for your time and thanks for being here today.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay.